It's my honor to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Fred Friedman, our CEO and President. Fred has been with PMI for 22 years, from campus director to chief operating officer to CEO and president. Well, CEO and president for the next 7 days, that is. Next week, the end of April, will conclude Fred's glorious run as a Pometian, a PMI person, as he enters retirement phase. Fred's contributions, and is he cheering behind me? Is he excited? Fred's contributions and his impact have been truly incredible. We definitely thank Fred for his leadership, his never-ending work ethic, his brain that never stops thinking of new ideas and things we can do, and his great big heart. As an organization, we've been made stronger, and as individual human beings, we've been made better. He led us through the best of the times, and most importantly, in the last couple of years, in the darkest of times with no playbook to guide us through, he was exactly the leader we needed. On behalf of every single employee who has worked for PMI over the past 22 years, we truly thank you, Fred, for everything. Ladies and gentlemen, our President and CEO, Mr. Fred Friedman.
It's always very humbling to hear such nice things said about you, so thank you, John. Milestones, we all have milestones in our lives. We celebrate birthdays, and we celebrate the first time we went on a date with our wife, and we celebrate weddings, and we celebrate when the last time the Cubs won the World Series, and I don't know when it was, but Rich is happy. And we celebrate anniversaries, and a 50th anniversary is a pretty significant anniversary, not just because it's 5 decades and half a century and what it represents in terms of the amount of time and commitment that's gone into all that we are at Pima Medical Institute, but it is just an incredible thing to reflect upon and think back, and that's the way I look at these milestones, that's the way I look at these anniversaries, as a time to reflect. I think where we came from as an organization, starting in 3 classroom schoolhouse, what we have right now, that schoolhouse probably could have fit right in the middle of this courtyard. And think about where we are right now, and it didn't come without sacrifice, and it didn't come without hard work, but we also want to think not just where we came from, but where we're going. And the next 50 years are very bright for Pima Medical Institute. The healthcare field is not going away. Healthcare professions are the essential workers of today's society. We have an aging population, here's one of them right here, that wants to be well taken care of, and I couldn't think of better hands to take care of me than Pima Medical Institute graduates, so thank you alumni and thank you future graduates. But I also reflect on the role we play in our communities. We not only create jobs, at Pima Medical we have, give or take, about 1,100 staff and faculty, but we're training the workforce, we're training our community workforce. We empower humankind, and we do that by enriching their lives and building self-esteem and building self-confidence and building self-worth. And that is a pretty awe-inspiring responsibility when you think what we do each day with the number of students that we have in our schools. From a short-term phlebotomy program to a nursing program, respiratory therapy, radiologic technology, surge tech, PTA, OTA, it's just incredible the responsibility that our students take on as they embark on their career. And most importantly, we satisfy a demand. We satisfy the demand of employers. And by the way, TMC is hiring if anybody is looking for a position. We satisfy a demand, and we satisfy the needs of individuals to become more substantial in their own lives and on behalf of their families. But that's kind of the big picture. And bringing it down to a realistic level, we are absolutely the sum of our parts. We are the sum of the parts of all of our students, all of our alumni, all of our graduates, and most importantly, our faculty. And I just want to take a moment. Dick thanked our faculty. I just want our faculty, just for a second, raise your hand so that we can give you a round of applause. Thank you. Our faculty directs the traffic in the classroom, and that's not easy to do. In adult education, unlike teaching 8th grade or 9th grade or 10th grade, where students come in with pretty much the same background and from the same area, adult students come from a variety of backgrounds and parts of the country or parts of the world into a classroom. And our faculty understand what it is to direct the traffic in a classroom, to control the classroom, and most importantly, impart their wisdom into our students so that they can go out and practice healthcare and be trained professionals. We're nothing without their dedicated faculty. We're nothing without the work that they do in the classrooms. And each and every day, I think of the most important people in our organization, and I think of our faculty, number one. So on my own behalf, thank you all very much. As I look back, John mentioned I had 7 days remaining. Mentally, I have 3 minutes remaining. As I look back on my 22 years with Pima Medical Institute, the word value comes to mind over and over, not just because it's a prominent word in our mission statement, but because it is really it's really the bedrock from which Pima Medical Institute stands. And it was 22 years ago. I started here in June of the year 2000, and it was May in the year 2000 that I met Dick Lupke Sr. And he was interviewing me, which is more like a conversation. It wasn't like an interview. He didn't ask me my greatest strengths, my greatest weaknesses, nothing like that. It was just a conversation. He might as well have asked me whether I enjoyed a double cheeseburger more than an In-N-Out burger. It was just about a conversation. But one thing he asked me on a business stance, he said, "What do you think we should do to make more money?" And I said, coming off a hamburger question, that's a turn of events. What do I think we should do to make more money? Well, maybe we should raise the tuition. That'll allow us to make more money. And he said, "That's where you're wrong, Fred. And I'm going to tell you a story. And it's about value." He said, "Starbucks is just starting out. Starbucks are springing up all over the country. And just because they can sell a cup of coffee for $3.75 doesn't mean they should be. We could sell a cup of coffee for $3.75, but I'd rather sell it for $1.75 and provide value and make more people happy and graduate students with less debt and provide that service." And that is the foundation of our organization. Not getting as much as we can, but providing value to those we serve. And I think that's an honorable philosophy and one in which every member of the Pima family tries to live up to. Those words have stuck with me for 22 years and will stick with me for the next 22 or 50 years. That story I have told a number of times because it's meaningful to me, because there are very few businessmen that would put people over profits or culture over corporate. But this was a man that did that. He put people over profits. He put the culture over the corporate sense. And as we've grown bigger, it becomes a little more difficult not to be corporate, I'll put that in air quotes, because we're a large organization and we have to have controls in place. But we try to maintain that culture. So as the third CEO of Pima Medical Institute in 50 years, and as the first non-Lupke family member as CEO, I have considered it my good fortune to be able to take on these responsibilities and to live up to the expectations of the Lupke family, because after all, Pima Medical Institute is a Tucson original. It is 100% Tucson original, and by that I mean, and on that note, we go to different parts of the country and they go, Pima. They assume Pima stands for something. They don't know that it's Pima County, Arizona. And they assume that it's Pima Medical Institute is, I don't know, whatever PIMA may stand for. And we explain that we were born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, and we're very proud, and we bring those values of family. We bring those values of respect. We bring those values of student outcomes, which is first and foremost a people-first philosophy. It's baked into the Pima name. It's part of our reputation. We have a reputation of being one of, or the best, career college in the country. We've grown in reputation because of that bedrock foundation that was laid by Dick and Dick Jr. and Mark Lukey, and we put these in position where we now have the next 50 years to look forward to, where we can jumpstart the remainder of our reputation, which is to go on, and to continue our partnerships and continue being part of the fabric of our organization, of our communities, and be part of the fabric of our students' lives, so that when they come back and they refer their students and they refer their children and they refer their grandchildren to Pima, we want to be able to treat them just as well for the generations to come. So I can't think of how fortunate I am to look back and how happy I am to have found a home at Pima Medical Institute. It's treated me very well. It's treated my family very well. As I am about ready to retire, I've said to a few people, it's really amazing. You work your whole life. You work hard your whole life. You think about retiring. And when you're actually about to say, I'm going to retire, and it's right here, it feels pretty good. So I hope everybody, if you haven't had that feeling, you capture that feeling, because there's a sense of freedom and what's next and excitement and these new adventures and how sick is my wife going to be with me in a week. All of those things are real. But today we celebrate Pima's 50th. I thank each and every one of you for coming. I thank you for the role that you play in Pima's success, because everyone that's here under this roof plays a role in our success. So on behalf of the entire organization, thank you for coming and thank you for celebrating with us.